Hello and welcome to the Super Rugby Aotearoa Round 10 and the Super Rugby AU, or Super Rugby Gold, for those of you who love your periodic table. Round 7 review brought to you by Driving Mall. Hi, where am I going? Geez, this is like throwbacks like 4 months ago. No, brought to you here on New Zealand Sports Radio. And hi, I'm Paul, the founder of New Zealand Sports Radio. It sounds more flash than the guy in his bedroom with a computer and a laptop, the desk and a laptop doing the show. But hey, you know what? Take you behind the scenes, pull back the curtain, all of that kind of stuff. And joining me, and these two guys have actually got offices. I mean, these wow. Joining me in his office, Ashwin. How you doing, sir?
Hi, doing well. I think it's Sunday, isn't it? Is it Sunday? I don't know. I'm in lockdown. I don't know what day it is.
The big question, Ashwin: have you had to do homeschooling today?
Not. What day of the week? Have I missed it?
Yeah,
I missed homeschooling today. Tragedy.
101.
Oh no! I'm gonna have to send my children to the coal mine now.
Coal mine? Do we have any coal mines in New Zealand? We've got a gold mine. So move to Wahi. Get them down the gold mine.
Don't tell Paul about the coal mine near Cornflake. Not a good one to go there on that one. Oops. Let's steer clear of the old coal mines.
Okay.
Mike River.
And Stephen in his gaming room, because it's not really an office, is it?
It's not really a room, to be completely fair. It's pretty small. It's a closet. Oh, we'll give it that much. In my closet of technology. There we go.
Henceforth, he shall be known as Harry Potter.
Out the closet.
Where's the disconnect button? Where is it?
Oh dear me! Yes, this is the show where we may talk about some rugby and some sport. Unlike all the other shows that are fairly serious, this is the one show that may or may not go off the rails. And we kicked off on Friday night with the Western Force playing at home in New South Wales against the New South Wales Waratahs playing away in New South Wales. Okay, that's our new COVID reality. So yes, the Force got to play a home game in New South Wales. Obviously, the other side of the country from where they really are. Stephen, they scored first. They were leading.
Well, that's the Western Force way, isn't it? You start well, you stun the other team into a reality of having to play rugby, and then you watch the game, well, I guess quite quickly drift away from you. And that's what they've done all season long. It's the number one special of the Western Force. I mean, yeah, but they had an all right first half, didn't they? They were in the game. They were only behind by 8 points at the halftime break. But it's the same old story of the Force. They start nicely. They get into a bit of a rhythm. They scored a fantastic try. I mean, to see Bernard Standard galloping down the wing like a horse that's been let loose out of the pen, it was great to see. I had to take a second look at it to see it was a big guy for number 8 on his back, just scampering down the sideline like that. But a good try, a typical Western Force try, typical Western Force performance. Do we have to talk about the Waratahs? I mean, doesn't every game the Waratahs play just make them look better than they actually are? When you look at the stats through this game, and they didn't really, I don't think, outplayed the Force.
I didn't ask you to talk about the Waratahs at all. I asked you to talk about the Force and how they were leading. I didn't ask you to talk about the Waratahs. It's your own fault. See, we get Ashwin in his blue jersey to talk about the Waratahs. It's blue like the Waratahs jersey.
I just want to. It's just like, what's with the Rugby AU, Rugby Gold? It's just like they get you all excited with a couple of rounds of like, oh, this game's they're not playing too badly, and then it's just like by halftime I fell asleep.
Yeah. So and I think it seemed you'd be a little bit generous to the Force. The Force were in this for about half an hour. In reality, then they gave up a try. Then they held the Waratahs were held up over the line as the hooter went on halftime. So they could very easily it could have very easily been 8 to 23 at halftime. Instead, it was 8-16.
Just going by that logic, you say that the Rebels should have been up by 60 points against the Reds, though. I mean, they had up go over the line about 20 times. Doesn't matter. They survived.
We'll get on to that one.
Good defence. Let's credit the Force for what they did well. They defended well in the first half and restricted the Waratahs to just 16 points.
Yeah, and as you say, I thought they were kind of in it at that point. It's like, okay, this is good for us. Then we come out the second half. The John O'Lark's way too flat, too flat, passes the ball, and Maddox, hiding behind the inside defender, steps forward, intercepts, and he's gone. And suddenly it's then 8-23, and you're like, yeah, okay, this one's now all over, I'm afraid, folks. That was, obviously, being an interception try, a little bit against the run of play, but even so, you kind of like, yeah, it's a long, long way back now for the Force. 2 more disallowed Waratahs tries in that second half meant that, it stayed relatively respectful. And unlike in the first half where the Tars bashed away at the line, got held up, at the end of the game, they were again bashing away at the end of the half, but this time they actually did get over the line. So, yes, they got what I was a bit surprised at was, we had the quick drop goal conversion, which was an absolute failure. Before they went on to knock on to not get the try bonus point. But there we go. That was the 2 disallowed tries. This has been the round for disallowed tries. We had 5 disallowed tries this round. That's amazing.
It's great. Yeah. I mean, we'll talk more about the others, but I mean, because the others happened, I say it's great. So no complaints from me. And we'll talk about the Western Force. The Western Force have struggled all season long, haven't they, to really not finish their starting chances. They start really, really well. They look good, but the second halves are just not their friends. They seem to lose that ability to not put a game away, but just do the basics and finish. They kind of completely lose their they lose their patterns, they lose their structure, they lose everything, and they go from a team that looks like you give them half a chance, they're going to do something that's quite spectacular, to a team that, like you said, Paul, that they don't look like they're going to climb their way back from a 10-point deficit and get back into the game in the second 40 minutes. So, yeah, it's a bit tough for the poor old Force. Come on, Aaron. Let's give it up for the old. We'll talk about the Highlanders later on, so don't you worry about that. The winning boys are back. That's all we have to say. But yeah, the Force, they need to try and find a way to actually consistently play and get themselves points in the second half and be able to finish what they can do in the first 40. It's really bizarre that they just fall apart in that second 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think the Tars were a tad unlucky, especially with the second disallowed try, where to say that he was advancing when he was running pretty much lateral across the pitch. You've seen passers be that far forward and allowed plenty of times. So then get called of advancing before you got overtaken by Hunt for that chip forward, I think was a tad harsh. And was put on side by Hunt. So to me, I think the second try should have been allowed. I was scribbling my notes down for the Highlanders versus Hurricanes, so I didn't actually write any notes during the game. And I'm suddenly thinking, did I actually mistake Maddox's disallowed try for one of the disallowed tries by the Canes, or do we have 2? Do we have 2 obstruction disallowed tries this weekend? Because Maddox went straight through a hole, it was obstruction. But
Tia's try was disallowed for the Canes.
For obstruction. I'm not getting mixed up.
You just thought you'd had a strange feeling of deja vu.
Exactly. So I do think that was. I think at least one of those tries should have been allowed to stand. I thought that. Again, I'll do a commentator's thing. Oh, technically, he was following the letter of the law, which I guess is what the referees are supposed to do. Yes.
Using the word literally, they are literally supposed to follow the law book.
But look, the Force don't help themselves. 18 line-outs, of which they only won 10, and some of those were scrappy that they won as well. They lost 3 of their own put ins at scrum time. Yeah, if you don't have a set piece, you're going to be fighting an uphill battle. Let's be honest, and that's why they didn't really look like getting back into this one, despite some nice play. Any other stats you want to pull out for this? Because Conflict, you mentioned you'd seen the stats.
I took a brief little look through them, but what were the ones that stood out for me? I was looking at the line breaks and stuff like that, whereas I've completely lost them now. But from my memory of what I looked at, clean breaks, there was 8 to 9 not too much different. So the Force just that inability to actually finish the opportunities and the chances that they create. So that's the big thing. They had all the possession in that second half. It's bizarre, isn't it? They dominated the possession and territory in the second half, yet completely got blown out of the game. So just goes to show that many great teams like the Highlanders can actually win games despite not having all the ball. So that just, any sort of lessons out there for anyone who's learning the game. You don't need the ball to win a game. But that normally doesn't go and apply for Australian teams. I just find the Waratahs a terrible team to watch. I don't know if it's just me or you guys find the same, but they just don't have that excitement, or I don't know what it is. They just seem fluky. They seem lucky, like you said, intercept tries. How many times when they've been smashed or when they've actually won, they pick up those tries completely against the run of play. They never look like a team who is going to win a game off their own bat. They kind of look like a team that's going to win by the other team doing stupid things, making errors, making mistakes. I think if you play a really good structured game against them and stay out of your own half, don't drop the ball too much, and put the pressure back on them in their own half and their 22, they're just slowly going to fall to pieces. But when you keep giving them those chances and those opportunities, they take them. And I mean, you've got to credit them for that. They take those little scraps they get fed off. But I find them a terrible team to watch. And yeah, they're not going to go up. Like, even the Blues are more exciting. And when you go that sort of step, you're really getting desperate.
You mean the second place team in the competition is the most exciting? Just saying.
Whoop, whoop.
I mean, it's good. You can finally let go of those tens trophy. You can finally say we've exceeded that.
Oh, nah, because that tens was a trophy. Didn't get a trophy this time. It's still tens.
So, you're right. I mean, last time they won because basically last weekend they beat the Reds because the Reds just didn't turn up and they totally out hustled them, which is something you very rarely see in professional rugby nowadays. But you're right. Against the Force, we knew they were going to win that one. We'll get onto the table later. It's all very close. But you've got to remember, the Waratahs have played the Force more than any other team. So they've got their automatic win. All the other teams have got an automatic win yet to come, which means they're really actually 4 points behind everyone else, or 4 points less than they've actually really got. So, I mean, they didn't even get the try bonus point in this one, which was appalling. But talking of games that and disallowed tries and games that should have finished 38-42 with those with those three disallowed tries. Ashwin, I'm going to let you kick off on the Highlands Hurricanes, because otherwise we're just going to have a monologue for half an hour.
I was ready to put my feet on. No, look, I mean, to me, for the Canes thing, but I'm not really sure whether the Canes took this game too seriously, tell you the truth. I mean, the fact is that reality is, I mean, like, I'm sorry, but when they pull Finley, not Jamie Booth, those redheads all look the same to me, but Finley, Jamie Booth, and it's just like there's daylight between. I mean, Jamie Booth is a fantastic halfback. I actually think he's challenging TJ for a starting spot. The way that he's been playing, he's just a firecracker all over the place, and that showed in the game. But then basically once he left the field, it's just like that. Basically, that Hurricanes team was basically gone. There's nothing there. So I was like, it's strange. Yeah, mate, I would have just played him right through the end of the game.
Go on then, Steve. So have a comment about the Hurricanes, about how they were playing, please, first. Then you can get on to the Highlanders.
Firstly, I want to defend myself as a person that works Sundays, and this is a great thing. It was a terrible thing that the game got cancelled this afternoon, but for me, I don't have to come home, try to rush watch through a 2-hour game so I can make at 8 o'clock deadline watching a game of rugby for the hour and a half that I don't have in between. So defensively for myself, this is great. Get rid of Sunday rugby so I can actually, maintain looking through the games before I have to come do these shows. That would be brilliant. Anyway, Hurricanes. Oh, Ashwin's nailed it on the head. I don't think I need to add anything to that. No,
cool.
No. They weren't even in the game.
Nocturnal agrees with me.
Hurricanes didn't care. I don't think they didn't care about this game whatsoever. It seemed like a festival game sort of thing. It's like a Barbarians match. They're out there, which was cool to see. I mean, we all knew the game ultimately had no decisive factor for this competition. I think the Highlanders probably had a bit more to prove after their season. They had those milestones for Aaron Smith and Ash Dixon. It was a home game. You know, it was all to seem a bit more the Highlanders actually wanted to go out there and do something. They seemed a bit more passionate about it. They seemed a bit more antsy. They seemed a bit more aggressive. You know, the Hurricanes, things didn't go their way. They laughed it off and moved on, which, you know, that's all well. I mean, I can understand that. But I think in terms of actually fighting for the game, they weren't really in there. They were in there to have some fun. You could tell they scored, you know, everything by sevens, and they grabbed tries, entertained the watchers on TV because, you know, and the substitutes in the stands. Have a bit of fun, and you could tell that by the way that they played and their body language and their reactions and things like that. Whereas the Highlanders, they had a bit more muscle, a bit more grit in the teeth for that one.
Do you have to say it was more on the line for the Highlanders as well? Because if you look at it, you know, everybody's sort of talked about how well the Highlanders have actually gone, and there's been some really promise on there. But if they hadn't have beaten the Hurricanes yesterday, the only team they would have beaten twice this season was the Chiefs, and everybody's beaten the Chiefs.
It's like the fourth one.
Yeah. I mean, like, really, the pressure was on the Highlanders to actually to chalk up a win against one of the other teams.
Also, but look, part of this, entertaining to watch. You've talked about the festival atmosphere, barbarian-esque in some ways. Look, the Hurricanes missed 40 tackles in this game.
So they're really there, weren't they?
The Highlanders
mentally they were there.
So there was a lot of missed tackles in this game. The one stat I found actually really surprising was that, and hence with all those tackles, we had 661 running meters from the Highlanders and 681 from the Hurricanes. That's 1,300 running meters. And that's nearly double what you'll see in a lot of other games.
That's like a one-day game with 450 runs by both sides.
And to get your cricketing fix each week, join Ashwin for swinging from the hip on a Thursday night at 8 p.m.
Absolutely. Did Vince Arso? It's been a while since Vince Arso has played on the wing, and I think that showed because he forgot where the sideline was, didn't he? Because you go back a couple of seasons, he actually was. That's where he made his name for the Hurricanes. Was when he had an awesome season on the wing, and he hasn't played there for a while.
No, wasn't he mainly? Wasn't it sort of 12? Him at 13 and Lamapi at 12 mainly, and he spent some time on the wing as well. But when he
quite a bit of time on the wing at the start,
right?
But I think that was kind of the way the Hurricanes were playing, weren't you? I mean, that try that he bombed was kind of a sum up, I think, because you just saw him. He wasn't looking at the line. He just caught it, and he was happy and chuffed and had a wee dance, and then it got disallowed. And they didn't even care. It's a bit of a shame, but it was fun. It was good fun, and you can't. I can't fault them for that. Given the circumstances of what it was, I think most people watched that game were pretty entertained about how it went down and the excitement of it. And it was a good fun game to watch. And I mean, getting the Highlanders win, the underdogs firing up, you know. And like I said on Twitter, you know, just for everyone here, the logic process now of Super Rugby Aotearoa, Highlanders beat the Hurricanes. Hurricanes beat the Crusaders. Crusaders beat the Blues. Blues beat the Chiefs. Chiefs beat no one. Highlanders number one.
No, we have to go, but just going back to let me ask you, are you not entertained? Hey, and by the way, and the Blues beat the Highlanders, so we're number one. Woo!
Oh, dearie me.
Just because we were talking about disallowed tries before, and obviously the Chase tier one, you know, that should be played at the beginning of the season to the referees' school or panel or whatever they call it when they all get together. That happens so much in every game where the players are running around behind, and it's like it doesn't matter if there's no, you know, that the player running around the back is deep. At the end of the day, it's still obstructing a line that the defensive player could have taken from a attacking player in front of the player with the ball. It should be called all the time. And then Justin Marshall going, "Oh, Collins got lucky. It was good that he bear hugged Umaga Jensen." It's like you can see his head looking at Tia coming around the back and running into Umaga Jensen. So I'm not sure what Justin Marshall was looking at. He's probably looking at his book on how to pronounce Super Rugby Aotearoa.
Hey, you can join me on a show. We can do a pronunciation show. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, but at least you're from England. What's his excuse? He's from Queenstown.
Oh, dearie me.
Oh, dear.
So yeah, it's you say festival atmosphere in this one. Some run. Would Collins have reached him? I don't know. But either way,
no, Collins. I actually think that Collins would have reached him because he wouldn't have taken a straight line. He could have actually taken a line inside to go towards Chase Tiatia coming across. That's looking at it. That's my opinion. Is the fact is that he would have taken a slightly more angled line inside towards Chase Tiatia to tackle them, and he would have made the tackle from my view.
Maybe we'll have to wait and see. We won't wait and see.
We'll wait and see. We'll never see.
Next week.
Look,
when I look at this Highlanders team, the big positive for me, I mean, I want to be completely Highlanders centric now for a few seconds if we could.
That's
unusual. Look at this Highlanders team. You look at the side. What are your thought process or your thoughts on these players when you go through? Mitch Hunt started the season as like, oh no, we don't have Josh Ioane. Oh, okay, well, I guess we'll put Hunt in there instead. And then Michael Collins, just the last 2 weeks as a midfielder, he's that guy.
Sorry, but let's rewind to Mitch Hunt. Mitch Hunt was... Mitch Hunt, let's be honest, the ball gets down to the wing, you think, that must be who's the 15 from the played winger who's been converted to a winger for the Highlanders. Mccarthy.
Start that again.
So the ball goes out wide. I think that's got to be Josh Mccarthy running with it because he's going so fast. No, it's Hunt, and I'm like, wow, okay, you got to say, really impressed with the way that Hunt has played, especially these last 2 weeks, controlling the game. Having, I don't know if it's because he's been at fullback where he's had more time. He was playing well earlier at 10, but in the last 2 weeks, the way he's injected himself in the game, the way he's controlled the game, has been a revelation. He has definitely impressed me over these last 2 weeks as to how Mitch Hunt. And when one of the things we'll be talking about tomorrow night on the Driving More show will be our 15 of the season from Super Rugby Aotearoa. And I've got to say, Mitch Hunt has put himself in with a shout of being in that. It's definitely a name to be talked about in that conversation as being a best 15 of the tournament.
Just in case I'm not there, you can talk about it all you like, but you're going to pick Will Jordan.
Well, no, we're not. But we might not.
Julie Barrett's a pretty good shout, isn't he, for a 15?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is a conversation for tomorrow night. Like I said, tomorrow night we'll be discussing this. Tomorrow. Tonight.
We're getting kicked out already, Ashwin. Well, we haven't discussed that. We've still got an hour and a half, don't we?
How wonderful the Highlanders players are. So
Mitch Hunt. Yeah, outstanding Mitch Hunt. Yeah. I'll go even better. Even before he was at fullback, when he was at 10, the way he developed the season, ability to take on the line, break tackles, we didn't see that from him pre-COVID Super Rugby. I just think when he got hammered at the start, when it was the Josh Ioane and Mitch Hunt thing, and everyone's like, oh, why'd you do that? I think that really killed him, mentally or what it was. Yep. He just didn't play his own game. He just didn't play anything like this. Yeah, he must have something like that. Get rid of Ioane, as bad as it is, but I think just that time, those 6 weeks or whatever it was, without Ioane in that team, he had that belief in himself where the coaches clearly said to him, you're the guy, play your game, see where it goes. If it all turns to pot, Josh will be back in a few weeks. We can move on. Bryn's there in the reserves.
But you can talk the shift, right? When they started at the beginning of the season, it was Mitch 10, Josh 12, which didn't work for their backline, basically. For your backline, it didn't work. No. Now, when he's come back after Ioane came back from injury, Ioane at 10, Hunt at 15. Interestingly enough, I mean, all us couch potatoes, that's the combination we were picking in terms of Ioane at 10 and Hunt at 15. Not 10 and 12, because I just don't see, there's just too much of the first five role in the 10 and 12 jersey. So I didn't. I think it's more the change when he came back from when Ioane came back from injury and they put Hunt at 15. In the meantime, while Ioane was injured, as you've alluded to, Hunt got a bit more confidence back as well, because his confidence looked shot. He made a lot of real basic errors in those first few rounds when they were playing 10 and 12.
Yep. So he's even my biggest improver by far. Josh Mccarthy, what a difference.
Most improved.
I mean, that Crusader, he is great, isn't he? Most improved. Yeah, he can get a certificate. It'll be in his yearbook, Highlanders yearbook at the end of this year. Josh Mccarthy, though, makes a massive difference to a backline, doesn't he? I gave him a bit of stick early this season about being the guy that just, the Crusader that moves down and doesn't have that same impact outside of that Crusaders team. Really has stood up the last few weeks. I thought he's been really, really good to have back in that back line. And maybe Michael Collins is the guy for that midfield, which is going to be interesting to see, if he plays some more time in there, whether he will be that guy. He definitely was pretty good last weekend. But yeah, I like the comment in there about how the Highlanders will win the comp in the next 2 years. I couldn't disagree anymore with Nocturnal Rights. Yeah, absolute legend. Great pack. Those second rows do look good. You got Parkinson is looking extraordinarily good. When you got back Tu'u at the back as well, Dylan Hunt, Frizzell's playing in form of his life. They look quite good.
They will struggle. But so here's the problem the Highlanders have got.
It's almost shock, isn't it? You look at it and go, they look good, but it's unbelievable, and it's just like it actually looks like it's coming together after the shambles. Let's be honest. The start of the proper Super Rugby season, they looked an absolute disgrace. They were completely terrible, and it's like they've just, the Chiefs the Chiefs have just gone, we'll take that spot from you. We'll be the terrible side after they look quite good. Pre-March, and now they're the absolute train wreck. The Highlanders have actually sorted their stuff out, which I think, as terrible as everything's been, that break has been the best thing for the Highlanders, and this season has been the best thing for the Highlanders to develop their side. So that's, only right things ahead.
Yeah, I think the problem...
I'll try. But Steve, exploding with joy, going, the Highlanders actually look quite good. Not except.
But look at the start of the season. The start of the season, they look so bad. They look so bad, and it's just like, it's terrible. We got a good team. We got the good halves. We got a solid pack that performs quite well, and then it was just so terrible. Now you got the same group of players, just that continuity of playing together, that extra time together, that extra time to know each other. It's something. It has to be something like that. And now they actually, they were close to the Crusaders twice. We won't try to jump on the Hurricanes too badly, but they pushed everyone they played pretty close all the way throughout. So it's been great. Yeah, don't worry. There's always next year, Aaron, where the Highlanders will topple the Blues. Don't worry about that.
Yep, but that's the problem that your Highlanders will have, though, is the fact is that absolutely the teams gelled well together. They will struggle against the big pack. And as long as that big pack doesn't make mistakes and the team doesn't make mistakes, the Highlanders won't be able to topple it. So that's basically in the last 3 weeks, that's what's happened. The Blues went down to the Tupperware container, and it's the big pack basically that dominated the game and then sort of took the foot off the pedal a little bit towards the end of the game. And then the Crusaders the following week. So that's where they will struggle, is against the big pack. So if we go back to a full Sansa Super Rugby format, the likes of the Sharks and Bulls with a good pack, again, if they come down, if they don't make the mistakes, because obviously the Highlanders on turnover ball with the likes of Mackay, Hunt at the back, you give them the ball with turnover ball, they will punish you. If you don't make those mistakes, they won't get those opportunities, and the forward pack will just control the ball and go forward. And that's what the Blues did when they went down the Tupperware container. That's what the Crusaders did last week as well against them. So that's the issue that they're going to have, is basically getting beaten up by bigger packs.
Yeah, that's that game plan, though, they've got to play. They've got to play the right plan, because they've got that more mobile pack and that faster, get around the park sort of team. It's like, the basketball analogy of having a big team versus the small ball players. That's what they've got to play. They've got to get around. They've got to keep the ball moving. They've got to tire those guys out. They've got to get the ball moving faster than those players can get to the next sort of part of the game. So the big part is controlling that tempo. And that's what's so hard to do against the Crusaders team specifically, is getting that on your side. So if they can learn
you got to have the ball. You got to have the ball to control the tempo. And that's the thing, is that if you get a ball that just puts it up their jumpers and controls that ball, you won't get it. And that, if you go back to I actually didn't see all of the Crusaders Highlanders game. But I did, so I know I should have. But it's just like, if we go back to the Blues Highlanders game, it's just like, apart from the first rolling maul try that the Highlanders got, after that, the Blues controlled the ball pretty well in the right parts of the field, make it very difficult for the Landers, as Steve's alluded to sort of then create anything. So basically, if the big forward pack controls the ball, puts it up their jumper, doesn't allow the Highlanders to get a sniff, then they've got to get that physicality up against the big guys. Otherwise, they will struggle if there's no mistakes.
If.
Yeah.
Big if.
Oh well,
Yeah.
I mean, like we've just seen it 2 weeks in a row. I mean, in out of the three sort of thing. So that's what you're going to be up against. And it's not going to rain. It's not going to rain inside the Tupperware container for a loose and slippery ball.
Oh, geez, thanks for that great weather report there.
Yeah. But it will rain at the GS Bowl in Southampton.
What was the name of that stadium again?
A GS.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. And when a GS actually starts to sponsor us, we can say a GS a few more times. Anyway.
No, actually, just in response to what Aaron's saying with Aaron Smith, I'm going to get his name right, but Whakatava, he gets more game time behind the Highlanders pack. Obviously, I think they'll have a decent backup half. When you went from Aaron Smith to Kane Hamilton, the drop-off's massive. It doesn't work. Going to Whakatava, I think you find that it won't be quite. It's not going to be Aaron Smith's playing out of this world at the moment. He's playing on a different level from the Aaron Smiths we've seen in last year in particular. But the drop-off won't be that big, and you'll still get, and fresh legs on will make a difference.
He's a different player, though. Completely different player.
Oh, different player.
Yeah.
Different player.
So
but,
different
chalk and cheese to a Hamilton, right? I mean, you'd rather have him there than the Hamilton.
I'm not arguing with that point at all. No. I'm more meaning that the spark that he'll add is more of a running game, as a danger around the fringes, whereas Aaron Smith's more of a danger around getting that flat pass, hitting a guy. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So you've got to have a different sort of play to counter a Whakatava to opposed to counting a Smith.
And you want that running game at the end of the game when they're starting to open up with gaps around the fringes.
Well, there is some question marks around Whakatava's decision making, really, especially with his haircuts.
Coming from Auckland, what?
Hawke's Bay.
Okay, Hoskins.
No, he's talking about all the Auckland players' haircuts.
Trying to fit in, okay?
It is pretty similar to is it Sam Knox? Hair is a bit. It's also got the kind of mullet dyed at the back, but nowhere near as blonde as Whakatava.
We've got fashion show again. We did this 2-3 weeks ago.
And not perm. That's my latest thing. I'm pretty sure Whakatava's had it perm to get those ringlets. Anyway.
I'm out.
No, I got you put Steve's comment up there. He's got to return the mascot on the back of his head. Some little child is missing his cuddly toy for the night's sleep.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Hey, just on the Hurricanes. I mean, I know you've got the scoreboard up there for the final table, but Scott Scrafton, when he left the Blues, I thought a massive loss. I just saw things in his game where he just powers through work. His work rate was massively high, and I think the Hurricanes are actually, really starting to see some benefits out of him being down there with them.
And that's been the Canes' problem, has been that they've got players players like Liam Mitchell, who is a good 6. I've gone blank. The other 6 who plays in the locks, all black.
Fifita.
Yeah, they've got all these converted 6 playing lock, and it's just been too lightweight. Getting a chunky boy like Scrafton in, workhorse is exactly what they needed. Is he a flash Scott Barrett? No, he's not. But hey, you know what? He's a chunk, and he gets through enough work, which is what they needed really there. A good Super Rugby player
and an excellent option in the lineouts for them as well.
It's a funny season how guys like Goodhue and Scrafton, those guys that aren't so much of those big flashy make a big name players have been standouts this year. Guys that just do that graft, that are hard. I see the guys saying, when he went off, we really, really missed him. I like one of the Highlanders, so I've forgotten his name as well. They got injured 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Dixon.
Josh Dixon, that's the one. Thank you. Another one. Yeah, they really, really missed when he's been.
But you need those players. You can't have a team full of Flash Harrys. You got to have the guy that actually does the work, taking it forward. Otherwise, you're just going nowhere. You're going side to side. You're going sideline to sideline. And we've seen teams do that, especially once you've gone one or two phases, right? From your scrum or line out, and you've gone a few phases. Generally speaking, you're not breaking through because the defensive lines are set. So you're going sideline to sideline. You need somebody to take it up the guts.
Up the guts. Right then. So looking at the final table then, congratulations to the Crusaders who won the trophy. And then the Blues who scraped into second with the Hurricanes lost last night. With 5 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. The Hurricanes in third on 21 points, and then the Highlanders in fourth, and the Chiefs a long way back in fifth with no wins at all season. And I was going to say, look, the two best defensive teams that seem to finish first and second, but obviously they played one less game with that draw, so that's a few less points. So one less game to compete against.
Unless there was a 50-point differential, 50 points put on by one of the teams, they still would have ended up being the two best defense. Right. Yeah.
They go defense wins tournaments, attack sort of wins games, which I think is probably what we saw last the odd game kind of thing, which what we saw last night.
When you look at that for and against, the one thing for the Blues supporters in particular is the fact is that they're not the finished article, and that's the great thing about it, is that for the strides that they've made this year, there's still work to do, and that's around attack. At the end of the day, they scored 176 points. They won a lot of their games off the back of defence. So there's still a lot of work in attack, and you can see it. They're actually making opportunities. They're getting go forward, but they're not converting that into points. And they should have, or they're switching off as well. And so that's a part of the game. In a lot of the games that they switched off, obviously the biggest game that they switched off on and cost them big time was the Crusaders down in Christchurch. So there's still work on. That's a great thing. They've come second on the table and they've still got plenty to work on.
I know how much you love to get in there and support the Blues, and all you Aucklanders, just jump on the back of the bandwagon of the Blues, actually winning some games once. But look at this whole tournament here. We can talk about the Chiefs and how they couldn't get any worse. So we won't probably include them because the only way is really up for them. But all of these teams are only going to get better. None of these teams are going to be massively decimated next season. None of the Hurricanes aren't going to be losing a huge bulk of players. The Crusaders have got a lot of youth in their team as well. The Highlanders have got a lot of youth in their team as well. All of these teams are only going to get better. They're all going to be on the massive increase. And I guess the closest of this competition in the way that even for the Chiefs, from their point of view, they lost a lot of games. 5 bonus points for losing. It's only 3 points. They got beaten by more than 7. Only 3 games, sorry. They got beaten by more than 7. They're going to improve. Against the Crusaders. Next season, they could turn those 5 losses by less than 7 into 5 wins. And then, you're right up there with the Blues and the Hurricanes with wins on the board. So this is all on the up here, and they're all strong sides.
And I think one thing that the Hurricanes did by beating the Crusaders down in Christchurch is the fact is that it's not rocket surgery. The fact is that you have to basically do it for 80 minutes. If you're going to beat the Crusaders, you have to do it for 80 minutes, and that's what teams like Highlanders and the Blues are fantastic examples of it. Played brilliant rugby for 55, 60 minutes, and then forgot about that. There's another 20 minutes to play and switched off. Right?
I would love to see a rocket surgeon. Just sign me up.
You go to Mahia Peninsula. Mahia Peninsula, or actually out at the airport. That's where your rocket surgeons are. Rocket Lab.
Hey, dear me. I was just trying to bring it up. I've done and the other actually encouraging thing also is is around attendance. I've got an attendance table. It's on the wrong bloody computer, so I can't share it on screen, unfortunately. But I was initially looking at the Chiefs, who went from 23,000 to 15 to 10, but then back up to 15,000 for their last game. And I was like, oh look, it's everyone's just really happy that we got rugby back, but it's dying off. But in the end, actually no, the Crusaders, that would have been a sellout against the Blues. That would have been a sellout against Crusaders. Their lowest game was 27,000 against the Highlanders.
On a wet night.
On a wet night.
On a very wet night. On a very wet night.
But they were back up to 33,000 against the Chiefs. So look, some very good. So the again, the Crusaders, 12,000 in their first game, 17,000 in their last game, and bounced around in between. Again, the Highlanders, 18, 19, then 20,000. Obviously, not allowed in that last game.
Yeah, I'm just wondering with the Crusaders.
Well.
With the Crusaders, did they change their structure, their pricing structure, or something? Because at the end of the season, they got a couple of sellout games, and you go to the beginning of the competition. I remember talking. They weren't selling anywhere near selling out their earlier games in the competition, and then all of a sudden they got a couple of sellouts towards the end of the season. So I'm just wondering whether they actually changed their ticket pricing structure. But we'll never know.
We don't know. Round 3 was when they had their first home game with 12,000, and then 2 weeks later, round 5 they had 18,000. Right. So I think there might have also been an element there of, look, we always win games anyway, so why turn up to them? And then everyone's actually going to rugby now. It's a really cool thing to do.
It's the in thing.
And then it sort of caught on. So maybe there's an element of that in this sort of complacency of Crusader supporters, and then with obviously with the Blues going well at that point, because Blues was their second game, and then people actually went, hey, actually, turning up to rugby is quite fun. We'll stick around for the Hurricanes game and for the Highlanders game as well. So yeah, that's I think attendance-wise also very good.
I think just on the other problem is that, and we've talked about this before, possibly off air, I don't know, maybe on air, but the NZRFU letting the Blues flounder for so many years was just a massive mistake for the kudos, for the hype of the competition, because when the Blues are going well, everybody wants to beat Auckland. Now, there's still an anti-Auckland thing that goes right there. So when the Blues are playing well and they turn up, you're going to get crowds turning up because we're going to beat these Jaffas coming down here. Right? Because everything's south, so it's got to come down. So, and that's going to build it. This year, the Blues have gone well, and so people are going along, we've got to go in there and support our team because we're going to beat these Jaffas, right? So it was just stupid on the NZRFU's part that they let the Blues flounder for so long, because it's been detrimental to the competition overall.
And with that, we'll move on to Super Rugby AU and Reds versus the Melbourne Rebels. What? Go on. No, that's what.
No, there was nothing.
Now, so Stephen and I have got a difference of opinion about the Reds and the Rebels on this one. And after seeing the Reds get absolutely thumped by the Waratahs last weekend, I put out a nice little tweet that said something along the lines of, "Why would you think the Reds were the second best team in Australia?" And you replied this week, didn't you, Stephen?
With good reason, because the mighty Reds come storming back to put in a clinic against your lowly Rebels. I mean, what happened last week? We won't talk about last week because that's in the past. We're only going to talk about the present, which was a very, very good Reds performance. Come on, they weren't at the races last week, were they? They were mentally gone in that game against the Waratahs. Absolutely terrible. But this week, there we go. Look at that. That's why we don't let it slide. It was a great performance by the Reds. They showed everything that they lacked last week. They showed a little bit of heart. They showed a little bit of defence. They actually wanted to tackle. They took chances. They just overall played a really, really strong, smart, complete, kind of as good as an Australian team can be, a game of rugby, and shut out defensively over more than anything. Defensively, they were almost unbreakable. Well, they were. Ultimately, one penalty was all they really suffered throughout that whole game. But big difference. Big players make big differences, don't they? Jordan Patai is one guy who's made a massive difference. Look, just stop being shocked at how good the Reds are, okay, Paul? They are a really, really good team. And the Rebels, I think, have been, well, they're a bit like the Waratahs, looking better than they actually are, if you ask my opinion on them. Go the mighty Reds. I'm with Shane on this one, actually. Me and Shane. Yeah.
With look, James O'Connor, what's he doing? Opening minute of the game, passing along and playing off his own goal line. Which was, well, and then later on.
Well, it nearly worked for him.
And then later on, they do a cross-field grubber kick.
You were just sitting here going on Carlos Spencer doing that. Like, how many years you were just praising him. And now you got a big James O'Connor. No.
I remember putting him in the live chat. So, folks, by the way, if you want to join us, if you listen to this on the podcast, want to join us in the live chat, we're at 8 p.m. every Sunday, and we'll keep going for Super Rugby AU as well. And Stephen will have no excuses. There'll be no Sunday rugby. So do join us for that live on our Facebook page. Go search for New Zealand Sports Radio on Facebook. There was some crazy play by the Reds amongst all that good defence. And boy, oh boy, they got away with it a couple of times. I mean, this is just nuts here. The Rebels had 17 lineouts. They had in the second half, 94% of the territory, and they lost the half. I'm sorry, not 94% of the territory, and the Reds got a yellow card, and the score in the second half still was 7-0. And you're like, Rebels, what are you doing? They got held up over the line multiple times. Isa Nazarani, okay, great, until he gets within about 10 metres of the try line. Wonderful carrier and stuff. But boy, he just couldn't get the ball down against scrum halves. Scrum halves were holding him up over the line. And you're like, mate, you're supposed to be a big forward bashing guy.
Are you being a scrum harvest?
Scrum harvest.
Anti-scrum half. Man, harsh.
I mean, look at the work that Aaron Smith's boot did a couple of weeks ago. I mean, that just shows what the magical feat of a number 9 can do.
That was very impressive. Yes, I think you just got stuck under there by accident. Oh, you're squeezing my toes. Get off my foot. Oh no. The Rebels. The Rebels got no one else to blame for this but themselves. Put bluntly, they made the Reds make 232 tackles. And that's just nuts. They missed 20. Sorry, 29. But guys, I want to hear your thoughts. Who do you think was the top tackling Rebels player?
Rebels player.
They just had 94% of the ball.
Yeah. One of their players made 10 tackles. Actually, one player got into double figures. Who do you think it was?
Josh Kimani.
Nope. Lamani, the scrum half.
And he only come on as a reserve.
No, starting scrum half.
Did he start? Oh,
yeah, he did start. Yeah, but 10 tackles in the scrum half. The next best was Wilk in the flank with 8. And you're like, boys, forwards, what were you doing? Your scrum half was doing all the work for you defensively. Jeez,
they're getting held up over the line. You just said that before.
Yeah, you're right. James O'Connor, a famous tackler, made 16 and didn't miss any.
Wow.
The top tacklers though were Blythe with 22 and McWright with 22 also for the Reds. All of the starting forwards were in double figures, and even Dongunu on the wing made 9 tackles in this game. When we can go through lots of games where the wingers make 1 or 2 and generally miss 3, but no, he made 9 and missed 1. So yeah, this was as you say, massive defensive game by the Reds, but the Rebels had all of the possession in the world and only themselves to blame. They could have won this with drop goals, put bluntly.
I've got a question though. I've got a question. So because as I said, I watched the first half of both the Aussie games, right? And it's just like it was just good timing of the comment there. The handling was just terrible. The knock-ons, and things, passes going, missing players, or going to ground, and this is like, oh, geez, that's what basically sent me off to bed. So, am I wrong? Was the passing and the catching really that bad? It wasn't raining, was it?
It wasn't wet.
Moist. Oh, yeah, it's always moist in Australia. They're always playing with a slippery ball in Australia. It's always whatever. But I mean, 18 turnovers by the Rebels.
A bit of sandpaper to roughen it up a bit.
8 p.m. Thursday.
The Force Waratahs weren't too bad with turnovers, but yeah, I mean the Rebels, 18 turnovers. They were just the architects of their own demise. As Nocturnal Right says, the 9 and 10 just never sniped or attacked flat at all, which let
That means the defence just drifts off.
Yep.
Yeah, there was one big highlight in this game, and it was a big highlight. Now, if you like to see big, massive men have a big trying to say, I'm better than you are and I'm bigger than you are, go watch Farmasili and Tupou have a bit of a tussle over a few phases.
Two dump trucks going down the sideline.
They just went straight for each other probably 3 times in, I don't know, 5 or 6 phases, just continuously. And to be fair to Tupou, he got him. He did him big time. There was only one winner in that contest, but it was great to see there was a distinct, straight, personal attack at each other when those two got the ball. Farmasili got it and he was going straight for Tupou. Tupou was just pushing his teammates out of the way, saying, I got him. It was great to see. It was a great contest.
I think the first of those interaction was when Farmasili actually thought he was going to run around the outside of Tupou.
And he picked him up and splattered him.
Exactly. It's just like, dude, have you not seen any of his games at schoolboy level when he basically ran as fast as a back?
And then he tried to make a point of it, of running over him, and failed consecutively a few times. Yeah. It was great watching, though. It was a highlight.
I mean, Farmasili, new boy on the block, both playing for the same gold jersey. Clearly thought he could make a point. And as you say, didn't.
Good boomfar moments.
Oh, yeah, Justin would have loved it. He would have been all over that one. If he could have said his name, though, Farmasili is probably a bit difficult for Justin's sort of level.
It's got farmer in it. That's disrespectful, and I apologise.
To farmers. We're not sure Justin can pronounce their farmers' names. The farmers can definitely do it. Looking at the AU table, look, Brumbies out in front still with on 18 points, play one less game. The Reds in second on 16. The Tars just 1 point back on 15. But remember, they have already got their Western Force points in the bag. The Rebels in fourth there in 14. Look, I'm expecting this to be Brumbies, Reds, and Rebels in the final series. Reds and Rebels obviously playing off for the opportunity to play against the Brumbies in the actual final. Issue for the Rebels obviously is the COVID situation in Melbourne, which means that they, like the Western Force, are playing all their home games in New South Wales and having to live away from home, which is impacting them, which will be impacting them the longer the season goes on as well. But yeah, I mean, look. Another reference to Pattaya. Pattaya was one of the standout players in this one. It's great to see him back from injury.
I wanted to ask that. I was just going to go to that question. So, what is the rationale behind not playing him in his? He's a midfield back. Why are they playing him on the wing?
They probably will from now on because Hunter Paisami looked like he actually got pretty badly broken in that last game. Well, I guess it's what's working, isn't it? Well, they've played all season with Paisami and Stewart and at inside centre. Why break it? If it isn't broken, just keep on playing that same sort of way.
No, the only reason I say, every time Pattaya is one of those players that every time he gets the ball, you're waiting for something to happen, and so you want him to get the ball as much as possible, right? And that's why I'm sort of thinking you want to shift them in. You get those players, and it's like you got to balance up. You don't want to chuck him in too early, but the reality is that if he's good enough, he's going to go well enough.
But it's a bit like argument saying that Geordie Barrett should play in the back line in the Hurricanes. Like, let's be honest, he spends 99% of the time in the back line. Jordan Pattaya doesn't really sit out in the wing. He's not a Corribetti. He doesn't sit out there. He comes in, and he's quite often normally sitting where your 13 would be sitting anyway in that back line, and kind of forces someone else to sit out on that wing instead and plays inside him. So he's an involved player. He's not going to just sit out there and collect a paycheck. He gets in there and he gets involved in the heavy stuff, that's for sure.
And I'm pretty sure that he spent he played a bit on the wing last season as well. So I think he is seen as being a kind of, whilst yes, third jumper, he is someone who can play
a rover
as well.
He's a Vince Asso.
Vince Asso.
He also tends to. We tend to find Lamapi out on the wing as well, don't you? These kind of players who you want to get the ball in their head, give them a bit of space, and they're even more dangerous. So in some ways, yes, you can bring them in, but it gets more crowded. So it's 6 of one and half a dozen sometimes. I was just trying to bring up his stats to see if I could see if he'd what number jersey he had in his back normally, but yeah, I can't achieve. I'm not going to be able to achieve that before the end of the show. So thank you very much, Ashwin and Steve. Any other final comments about the weekend's games before we sign off?
It's going to be boring now, eh? Man, Gary, am I wrong?
Well,
No.
yeah. So obviously next weekend there's no games. I think the North-South game is supposed to be the weekend after that, but it was scheduled for Auckland, and whilst officially they would be coming out. Currently, I should say rather than officially, currently level 3 will be coming down to level 2 before then, but we'll have to see how that announcement goes. So I have to wait. But Stephen is, I think, suggesting that they move the North-South.
We have a scrum. He's suggesting we have a scrum, I think.
Knock it down south. Under the roof.
And hey, you can't have Blues players, and you just have to take players from the other 4 franchises who are allowed to travel around.
Oh, what a shame. Oh.
Well, it's like, so the 29th is basically 3 days, roughly, I think, off the top. Oh, no, actually, no. 29th is about 4 or 5 days after lockdown closes. Wow, that's assuming that 3 doesn't carry on, and yeah, we don't go to 4, or we do go to 2, and who knows?
Who knows? And Ashwin's going to spend the next sort of 2 weeks rolling a dice, telling us which number it's going to be.
6.
Yes, conspiracy theory number 1. Hey, I rolled a 1, therefore conspiracy theory says it's going to be this. So yeah, look out for Ashwin's NZ Fatso for all his dice rolling conspiracy theories.
Magic number 8 ball out.
Oh, dearie me. Look, folks, during this time of COVID lockdowns, please do be kind to each other and stay safe. I'll be back tomorrow night with the Driving Mall show, where we will, have a look at our 15, our Super Rugby Aotearoa 15. We'll also round up some club rugby. Ashwin suggesting we might even talk about the Blues tomorrow night. I don't know, maybe.
No, I was saying Blues, mate.
Go Blues. So have a wonderful folks. Please do share this around. We are obviously an independent media organisation. He says, sat in his bedroom with his desk. So do share it around, folks, please. We're closing on 1,100 followers of the Facebook page, and it would be great to get there soon this week. Cheers.